Wye Cave Incident. At 2:30 in the morning, Logan's mother got a terrifying phone call. Logan's friend said he was trapped in a cave for over 7 hours. Logan's mother collapsed with fear for her 20-year-old son. 12 hours earlier, Logan and friends went camping at Makokata Cave State Park in Iowa. Around 7 p.m., Logan and his friend Emma decided to explore Wye Cave. They grabbed headlamps and promised to return in an hour or two. Logan led Emma through passages he had explored many times before. As they went deeper, the passage began to narrow dramatically. Logan squeezed through a tight section without much trouble. Emma followed behind but began to feel something was wrong. The walls seemed to close in around her like a vice. Emma called out saying she thought she was getting stuck. Her body became wedged between the floor and ceiling. Every time she tried to move forward, the space gripped her tighter. Logan turned around and reached back to find Emma's hand. Emma was hyperventilating and having panic attacks in the darkness. Logan stayed calm, holding her hand and talking continuously. Another couple exploring the cave heard Emma's distressed calls. They realized the situation was beyond what they could handle. The couple quickly went to call 911 for emergency help. Rescue crews entered Wye Cave with specialized equipment. They started chiseling the passage to make more space. After 4 hours underground, Emma was finally freed from the passage. She emerged with scrapes and bruises but was alive and safe. Logan felt tremendous relief watching Emma being rescued. But when rescue workers began leading Logan out, disaster struck again. As Logan tried to move over a crevice, exhausted from stress, he slipped. He dropped deep and became wedged even worse than Emma. Logan was stuck face down with his arms pinned beneath him. A solid rock ledge pressed down above him and he couldn't move. The rescue operation became much more difficult and dangerous. Logan's family was contacted and rushed to the cave site. Logan had been trapped face down for nearly 20 hours. Rescue workers brought air chisels to carefully chip away rock. They managed to get oxygen to Logan and started an IV. Hours passed as Logan's parents waited above ground. The rescue workers said Logan would need to help lift himself out. After 20 hours underground, the rescuers had created just enough space. Logan somehow found the strength to work with his rescuers. Using the small space they created, he got better leverage with his arms. In an almost miraculous moment, Logan pulled his torso free. Rescue workers immediately grabbed him and guided him to safety. When Logan emerged from Wye Cave, he was covered in dust and mud. He was exhausted with scrapes and bruises, but walking and breathing. His mother rode with him in the ambulance to the hospital. The nightmare that began with a 2:30 a.m. phone call was finally over. Both Logan and Emma survived their terrifying ordeal in Wye Cave. Captain's Trail Cave Incident. On September 11, 2002, 3 hunters went into Hawaii's fern forest near Captain's Trail. They gathered their gear and checked their headlamps and supplies before dawn. The hunters had been on these trails before and knew the area well, but somewhere along their route, they left the established trail to explore. In Hawaii's volcanic landscape, this choice would prove very dangerous. The island has many lava tubes which are hollow tunnels formed by flowing lava. The hunters found what looked like a cave entrance and decided to explore it, but they were entering one of Hawaii's most complex lava tube networks. These interconnected tunnels twisted like underground highways. Without proper maps, navigation became very difficult in the maze. As hours passed, all the passages looked similar in their headlamp light. Each turn led to another identical tunnel that confused them more. The 3 hunters got completely lost in the underground passages. Above ground, their families grew worried when they didn't return. The Hawaii County Fire Department received a report of 3 missing hunters. Firefighter Brent Matsuda, age 41, joined the search and rescue team. He was experienced in rescue operations across the Big Island. The search began at first light on September 12th with multiple teams. The vegetation was incredibly dense, creating green tunnels of thick plants. The plant growth was so thick searchers walked on top of it. This made Hawaii's terrain dangerous because plants covered hidden gaps and caves. Around 10 a.m., Matsuda stepped on what appeared to be solid ground. The moment his weight shifted onto the plants, everything gave way. The ferns revealed a hidden opening camouflaged by plant cover. Matsuda fell approximately 100 feet into a large lava tube. The fall was catastrophic as he dropped through complete darkness. His helmet and backpack absorbed some impact, but injuries were severe. Matsuda suffered broken ribs, spine damage, and internal injuries. Above ground, firefighters heard his cry and recognized the falling sound. The rescue operation shifted to saving their injured colleague. Fellow firefighters assembled rope rescue equipment for the extraction. Matsuda was secured in a rescue harness and brought to the surface. A helicopter transported him to the hospital for his critical injuries. Meanwhile, the search for the missing hunters continued urgently. The accident revealed the hidden lava tube network beneath their feet. Search teams checked different cave entrances that might connect underground. The hunters had been missing for over 24 hours. Teams systematically checked cave openings, calling and listening for responses. The breakthrough came when a searcher heard faint voices echoing. Following the sound, he found the 3 missing hunters. They were huddled together, suffering from mild hypothermia. Their lights had failed and they were lost in the dark tubes. They had spent nearly 24 hours underground in constant cold. but they were conscious and able to walk with assistance. They emerged tired and cold but needed no emergency medical treatment. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Matsuda's extensive injuries from the fall. He was in critical but stable condition with good recovery chances. Matsuda did recover fully from his injuries in the following days. Langstroth Pot Cave Incident. On May 2, 1976, 6 members of the Newcastle University Caving Club went to explore Langstroth Pot Cave. The cave was located in the Yorkshire Dales and was known for its vertical drops and underwater passages. The 6 friends were Martin Blackburn, Brian Fox, Donald Southern, and 3 others. They had been caving together for months and trusted each other completely. In 1976, cave diving equipment was not widely available to most explorers. Free diving through short underwater passages was considered normal practice. The technique was simple. Take a deep breath, swim underwater through the passage, and surface in the next chamber. The group entered Langstroth Pot in good spirits on the clear morning. They moved through the cave chambers carefully, checking their equipment regularly. Water levels were normal, and conditions seemed perfect for their planned route. As they went deeper, they encountered vertical drops and narrow passages. Each obstacle was tackled with careful precision as a team. Hours passed as they navigated the complex cave system underground. Finally, they reached an underwater passage called a sump. It looked no different from other underwater tunnels they had successfully crossed before. Water flowed through a submerged tunnel, and they could see an air pocket on the other side. The plan was simple and routine for experienced cavers like them. The first 3 cavers would swim through the sump and surface in the chamber beyond. Martin Blackburn went first, taking several deep breaths to prepare. He disappeared beneath the dark water with confidence. Brian Fox followed next using the same preparation routine. Donald Southern went last of the first group. All 3 emerged in what appeared to be a perfect air pocket chamber. The chamber seemed like salvation, a place to rest and breathe after the swim. From the perspective of the 3 waiting cavers, everything appeared normal. Their friends had made the dive and presumably surfaced safely. There were no sounds of distress or indication anything was wrong. But what the cavers didn't know was that the air in the chamber was poisoned. The chamber contained bad air where oxygen had been replaced with carbon dioxide. The atmosphere looked, smelled, and felt exactly like normal air. There was no warning or obvious sign of danger. Bad air can develop when organic matter uses up oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. Poor air circulation allows dangerous gases to build up over time. When Martin, Brian, and Donald surfaced, they were breathing poison. The gas was invisible, odorless, and absolutely deadly. With each breath, they took in less oxygen and more carbon dioxide. The effects of bad air are quiet and deceptive, unlike violent drowning. The victims might feel dizzy or confused at first. Their thinking becomes clouded and physical coordination gets worse. Then, without warning, consciousness simply fades away. The 3 young men had no idea what was happening to them. One moment they were planning their next move through the cave. The next moment their vision blurred and their limbs became heavy. One by one, Martin, Brian, and Donald lost consciousness. They slipped silently beneath the water in the poisoned chamber. They didn't drown in the traditional sense, but were poisoned by the air. Back at the sump entrance, the remaining 3 waited for their friends. As minutes turned to hours, concern grew among the waiting cavers. They called out but got no response except the sound of flowing water. Eventually, they made the difficult decision to exit and seek help. When rescue teams entered with proper breathing equipment, they made a shocking discovery. The 3 missing cavers were found floating peacefully in the air pocket chamber. They weren't trapped by rocks or struggling in water. The rescue teams tested the air and found it was toxic. Jenolan Cave Incident. On March 30th, 2024, 6 cavers arrived at the Jenolan Caves for a self-guided tour. The group was familiar with the cave system, but not the specific section they planned to explore that day. After gearing up, they began their journey. For nearly 4 hours, the group squeezed through tight tunnels and obstacles. They were heading toward a section known as the Row Hole, which would be the final and most challenging part of the day. The first 4 members of the group managed to work their way through, but Tim and Eliza, the last 2, were still behind. Tim went first, carefully inching his way into the narrow tunnel. The passage became very tight as they advanced. It was the most difficult squeeze they had ever experienced. As Tim moved forward on his elbows with his shoulders squeezed in, he found a bend just before the tunnel turned almost completely vertical. This required some twisting to get through, but as Tim tried to twist his body to fit the curve, he suddenly became stuck. A sharp rock sticking out from the tunnel wall pinned him in place, trapping him. He couldn't move forward or backward. Eliza, waiting behind him, was also trapped, as this was the only exit nearby. More concerning was Tim's position, like he was nearly upside down, which is extremely dangerous. Being stuck in this position puts extra strain on the heart, which must work harder to pump blood throughout the body. When Tim realized he couldn't free himself, he called for help, but none of the others who had already passed through the tight passage could return to help. At 7:20 p.m., a call was made to emergency services. Rescuers rushed to the scene. Upon arrival, the rescue leader knew this would be a difficult mission due to the tight space and Tim's upside-down position. The leader determined that the only way to free Tim was to chip away at the rock that had him trapped. Entering the cave head first, the rescue leader carefully worked his way into the tight space beneath Tim. Armed with a drill, he began making small holes in the rock. Dust and debris sprayed into both his and Tim's faces. After drilling, he pulled out a chisel and told Tim to stay as still as possible. For nearly 10 hours, the rescue leader worked tirelessly in the cramped, dark tunnel. He chipped away at the rock, bit by bit. Finally, at 4:45 a.m. on Easter Sunday, Tim was freed and able to crawl out of the narrow passage. Eliza followed shortly after. Both walked out of the Jenolan caves shaken but unharmed. Black Eagle Cave Incident. 3 experienced cavers, John Parker, Leo Sanchez, and Mike Barnes, set out to explore Black Eagle Cave. They wanted to map its depths because it was rumored to have unexplored sections. They were prepared with ropes, helmets, harnesses, and extra supplies. Upon reaching the cave, the men entered and navigated its narrow passages. Their headlamps lit up the winding tunnels as they went deeper into the earth. The cave was challenging with tight squeezes, jagged rocks, and slippery walls. As they went into a deeper section of the cave, something unexpected happened. Mike was moving down a steep, narrow drop. He placed his left foot on what appeared to be a sturdy rock. But as soon as he put pressure on it, the rock crumbled beneath him. His leg jammed awkwardly between 2 sharp edges. The fragile rock broke under his weight and wedged his left leg in place. The walls of the cave were slick with moisture. Before he could regain his footing, his other leg slipped down. His body lurched forward. The pain hit immediately. His left leg was twisted unnaturally. As he tried to stabilize himself, the weight of his body pulled on the trapped leg. This stretched the muscles and tendons beyond their limit. He felt a sharp, searing pain in his ankle or knee. He knew something was broken. The pain was excruciating. Leo and John rushed to his side, but the narrow passage made it difficult for them to reach him directly. The confined space and the unstable rock made every movement dangerous. John could see the strain on Mike's face and the agony in every grimace. Mike's leg was wedged tightly with the rock around it crumbling. His lower body hung at an unnatural angle. They quickly looked at the situation. The fragile rock was too unstable to pull him free without making things worse. Leo tied a rope around Mike's upper body to prevent any further slips. They knew they couldn't just pull him out. The break in his leg and the awkward angle would only make the injury worse. Instead, they made a plan to relieve the pressure. John crawled into the narrow gap beside Mike, wedging himself into the small space to stabilize him. Leo found a sturdy anchor point and looped a second rope through it. The plan was to use the rope to carefully pull Mike upward while John helped move his trapped leg free. Every second counted, as Mike's breathing was growing more difficult. The pain was wearing him down. They began the slow, painful process of freeing Mike. Leo applied gentle tension to the rope, lifting Mike's upper body slightly. John worked to loosen the rocks around his trapped leg. Mike winced with every movement, trying not to scream as pain shot through his leg. The rock shifted slowly, piece by piece, as John carefully cleared the debris. Finally, the last chunk of rock gave way. Mike's leg was free. His left ankle was visibly swollen and twisted. He could barely move it without sharp pain shooting up his leg. They carefully moved him out of the narrow passage and into a larger space. It took hours, with John and Leo taking turns supporting Mike and guiding him through the tight passages. But they finally emerged from Black Eagle Cave, exhausted but relieved. Mike's leg was broken, but thanks to their quick thinking and careful efforts, he was safe and alive. Rat Cave Incident. On July 16, 2014, Delbert Hawkins and his dog named Rat went to explore an unnamed cave in Kentucky. As they went deeper into the cave, Rat was very excited. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes flashed in the darkness ahead. A raccoon. In an instant, Rat took off like a rocket, barking and howling as he chased the raccoon. He ran into the maze-like tunnels of the cave. Delbert called out to his dog to come back, but it was no use. The echoes of Rat's frantic barks bounced off the cave walls. The barks grew fainter by the second, and then there was silence. Rat was gone. For hours, Delbert searched every crevice, shouting his dog's name until his voice cracked. But the cave seemed endless, an underground maze that swallowed sound and light. Delbert had no choice but to return to the surface. Volunteers from Kentucky showed up, bringing flashlights, ropes, and determination. They searched the cave from top to bottom, but there was no sign of Rat. Delbert feared the worst. His best friend might be trapped, or worse, lost forever in the cave. Then on the third day, something miraculous happened. The faint, distant sound of barking echoed through the cave. Rat was alive, but he was stuck in a narrow tunnel. He was wedged tightly and no one could reach him. The passage was too small for any of the rescuers to squeeze through. The poor dog had been inside like this for 3 straight days without food or water. His eyes filled with desperation as he cried out louder. His paws scraped at the tight walls around him. His owner called out softly, trying to calm him down, but Rat only wiggled harder, as if he believed he could break free just by hearing that familiar voice. It was heartbreaking for everyone watching him struggle. Delbert was not about to give up on his dog. They figured out that to get to him, they needed to make another plan. They brought in a backhoe to dig into the cave from the surface. They hoped to reach the tunnel where Rat was trapped. Meanwhile, the rescue team got help from a local cave-crawling expert. Armed with drills and scraps of bologna, they went in with determination. The man wiggled his way into the tight passage, scraping away the rock. He made a wider opening to reach the dog. Rat was stuck tight and trapped. Each little breath came with a soft cry of pain, like he was begging for help. They knew they had to get him out quickly before he got too weak. They made the tunnel wider and called him out. And then, out of the darkness, Rat's nose appeared. Rat was saved, and Delbert couldn't hold back the tears as he hugged his dog tightly. He promised never to take him into another cave again.